They said it with a smirk. Some didn't even bother to hide the mockery in their voices. You felt the sting of their laughter cut deeper than any insult ever could. They thought you were a joke, an amateur trying to do something only the talented or the lucky could achieve. And maybe, at first, you almost believed them. Because when you're standing there at the very beginning, with nothing but a fragile dream and a handful of hope, doubt is always lurking, ready to pull you under. But here's the truth they didn't know. Laughter is temporary, but determination is permanent. They were laughing because they couldn't see your vision. They were laughing because it's easier to mock than to try. They were laughing because deep down, your courage to even start made them face the truth about their own fear of starting. You still remember the first time they did it. Maybe it was a friend who chuckled when you told them your plan. Maybe it was family who tried to protect you by saying, "Be realistic." Maybe it was a stranger on the internet who dropped a comment meant to crush you. At the time, their words felt heavy, like weights tied to your ankles, dragging you down into the murky waters of self-doubt. But somewhere inside you, something sparked, a quiet voice that said, "I'll show you." See, every person who's ever achieved something extraordinary started as a target of doubt. Edison, mocked for trying to create light. Oprah, told she didn't have the face for television. Elon Musk, laughed at for wanting to send rockets into space. The pattern is always the same. First they laugh, then they watch, then they wonder how you did it. In that moment when you hear the laughter, you have two choices. Let it define you, or let it drive you. Most people let it define them. They shrink. They stop. They fold their dreams into tiny paper balls and toss them in the trash just to avoid the sting of ridicule. But the rare few, the ones who make history, they take that laughter and turn it into fuel. You've been underestimated before, haven't you? Maybe not for something big like building a company or becoming a champion, but in those smaller moments too, when someone doubted your ability to pass a test, finish a project, or change your life. It hurt, but it also lit a fire. You might have failed at first, but failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the training ground for it. And here's the beautiful twist they don't see coming. Every laugh, every smirk, every dismissive comment is going to become part of your victory speech. Not because you're petty or want revenge, but because those moments are proof that you fought through resistance. When you finally break through, when you finally stand at the top of the mountain you've been climbing for years, those laughs will echo in your memory, and they won't sting anymore. They'll make you smile. You'll smile because you'll remember the nights you wanted to quit, but didn't. You'll smile because you'll see how far you've come from the version of you they laughed at. And most of all, you'll smile because now, those same people will be asking for your advice, your help, your insight. The same mouths that once told you it couldn't be done will now be saying, "How did you do it?" You're not here to prove them wrong for their sake. You're here to prove yourself right for your sake. But in the process, something amazing happens. The laughter turns to respect. And the respect? That's earned, not given. You'll earn it through sweat, through sacrifice, through the moments nobody sees when you're alone, grinding, learning, building. So let them laugh. Let them smirk. Let them think you're foolish for chasing something they can't see. Because soon enough, they'll see it. They'll see you standing exactly where they said you could never be. And in that moment, they'll understand. Not because you told them, but because you showed them. You're not the punchline anymore. You're the proof. And every laugh they ever threw at you is about to become the soundtrack to your greatest victory. The thing about laughter is it fades. But the memory of how it made you feel stays. And feelings are powerful. They can break you, or they can build you. At first, it broke you a little, didn't it? You went home that day, or maybe you just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying their voices in your head. You heard the sarcasm, the disbelief. You thought, what if they're right? What if I really am wasting my time? That's when the battle began, not with them, but with yourself. Because here's the truth. The loudest critic you'll ever face lives inside your own head. It's that voice that whispers, "You're not enough. You're not smart enough. You're not strong enough." And when someone out there laughs at you, that inner critic grabs the microphone and turns up the volume. Suddenly, you're not just hearing them, you're hearing you. And that's where most people lose. They think the battle is about proving someone else wrong, but it's really about proving yourself wrong. That ugly, doubtful part of yourself that wants you to stay small and safe. But not you. Something shifted. You reached a point where the pain of staying the same became worse than the pain of being laughed at. So you decided, fine, laugh now, but I'm going to work. And one day, the only thing you'll hear is the sound of my success. And so you began. Maybe you didn't even know what you were doing at first. You stumbled. You fell. People saw you fail and thought it proved their point. But they didn't understand. Those failures were seeds. You planted them, watered them with effort, and even when nothing seemed to be growing, you kept going. It's funny, the people who laugh the loudest are often the ones who try the least. They're comfortable on the sidelines, throwing commentary while you're out on the field taking hits. But you didn't stop. You showed up day after day, bleeding, sweating, learning. And somewhere along the way, something incredible happened. You started to change. Your skills sharpened. Your confidence grew. That inner critic's voice got quieter, replaced by something stronger. You stopped needing their approval. You stopped caring whether they understood. Because deep down, you knew this journey isn't about them. It's about you becoming someone who doesn't break when the world doubts them. Then came the small wins, the first signs that your effort was paying off. A project finished, a skill mastered, a door opened. And with each small win, the laughter around you started to fade, replaced by something else, curiosity. Some people still pretended not to notice. Others began to watch you closely, waiting to see if you'd slip. But a few, just a few, started asking questions. Not openly at first, but in quiet moments. How are you doing this? How do you keep going? And that's when you realized the transformation wasn't just about your own life anymore. It was about showing others what's possible when you refuse to quit. That's the real magic of proving people wrong. It's not revenge, it's revelation. You become a living, breathing example of persistence. You become the story they tell themselves when they're afraid to start. And slowly, those laughs, they turn into claps. But here's the part nobody talks about. Proving them wrong isn't a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. Because there will always be someone who doubts you, someone who thinks your dreams are too big, someone who mistakes your ambition for arrogance. And every time, you'll have the choice, shrink or shine. And you're learning to shine. The real turning point wasn't the moment you proved them wrong. It was the moment you stopped needing to. Because proving people wrong might light the fire, but becoming the person you were meant to be, that's what keeps it burning. You began to understand something powerful. Their laughter was never really about you. It was about them. Their own insecurities, their own fears, their own unwillingness to take the risks you were taking. People mock what they don't understand, and they ridicule what they're afraid to try. Think about it. How many people laughed at the Wright brothers before they took flight? How many people told Oprah she wasn't fit for television? How many thought Elon Musk was insane for chasing electric cars and rockets? The pattern is as old as time. The dreamer always looks foolish until the dream becomes reality. And you were stepping right into that same story. You started to train your mind differently. Every time someone doubted you, instead of shrinking, you used it as fuel. You'd go home, close the door, and work harder than they could imagine. While they were wasting breath on opinions, you were building proof. Quietly, relentlessly. And something inside you shifted even more. The laughter stopped hurting. It started helping. It became the soundtrack to your grind, the reminder that you were doing something bold enough to get noticed. You realized that every successful person you admire was once underestimated, mocked, or told to be realistic. And that's when you made a decision. You would never live a realistic life again. You would chase the kind of dreams that scared you. You would set goals that made people uncomfortable. You would work in silence until your results made the noise for you. And the results started to come. The thing you'd been building, whether it was a business, a career, a skill, or even a version of yourself, started to take shape in a way no one could deny. You started walking into rooms and feeling the shift in energy. People looked at you differently. Some were impressed. Some were jealous. Some were secretly inspired. And then, some of the very people who laughed in your face began asking for your advice. And here's where you had a choice. You could hold a grudge. You could say, "Remember when you laughed at me? Now you want my help." Or you could choose the higher road. Because you understood now, their laughter wasn't your enemy. Their laughter was your training ground. So instead of closing the door on them, you opened it. Because part of proving them wrong is showing them what's right. Part of winning is helping others win too, even if they once doubted you. That's when you truly leveled up. Not because you crushed them, but because you lifted them. Not because you won, but because you grew into someone who didn't need their validation, someone whose worth came from within. And maybe that's the part they'll learn from most. Not just your success, but your grace. Not just your results, but your refusal to let bitterness shape you. That's the kind of victory that lasts forever. By now, the laughter had stopped. The whispers had shifted, and the story they used to tell about you, the one where you were foolish, unrealistic, destined to fail, was starting to change. But here's the truth no one talks about. Success doesn't silence everyone. Some people will never admit they were wrong. They'll rewrite the story in their heads to make it seem like they always believed in you. Others will pretend your achievements don't matter, because acknowledging them means confronting their own excuses. And you? You had to learn not to care. You realized that their recognition was never the point. You weren't on this journey for their approval. You were on it because deep inside, there was a voice that refused to be quiet. A voice that kept telling you, you're meant for more. That voice had been there the whole time, even in the lowest moments. It was there when you doubted yourself. It was there when you felt like quitting. And now, it was louder than ever. Because by pushing through the ridicule, by working in the dark while they watched from the sidelines, you'd built something far more valuable than just success. You'd built belief. And belief changes everything. Belief turns fear into action. It turns rejection into redirection. It turns every laugh into an echo you barely hear anymore, because the sound of your own progress drowns it out. That's when you start thinking bigger. You realize that if you could come this far with nothing but grit and a vision, then the limits you used to imagine were never real. You start setting goals that once felt impossible. And instead of wondering if you can, you start asking, how will I? It's a shift in power. Before, they had the power to make you doubt yourself. Now, you have the power to inspire them, whether they admit it or not. And here's the beautiful irony. The people who once laughed at you are watching your every move now. Some are curious, some are envious, and some are quietly rooting for you, even if their pride won't let them say it. Because deep down, they know you proved them wrong. But more importantly, you proved yourself right. And as you stand there, looking back at the long road you've walked, you feel something unexpected: gratitude. Gratitude for the laughter that pushed you harder. Gratitude for the doubt that made you sharper. Gratitude for every moment you were underestimated, because it forged a strength you wouldn't trade for anything. The road ahead is still long. You're not done yet. But now you walk it with your head high, knowing that the hardest part wasn't the work. It was believing in yourself when no one else did. And you did it anyway. This is where it all comes full circle. The same people who once smirked, who once rolled their eyes, who once told you that you were dreaming too big, they can't deny it anymore. They can't pretend they didn't see it. They see the results. They see the work. They see you. And yet, this isn't about rubbing it in their faces. This isn't about revenge. This is about something far more powerful. Becoming living proof that you can start from nothing, endure every setback, and still rise. Because you've learned something they didn't know when they were laughing. You've learned that every laugh at your expense is just fuel. Every doubt is just energy. Every setback is just a setup for the moment you break through. Think about it. You could have let their words stop you. You could have believed them. You could have joined the crowd of people who quit before they even start. But you didn't. You kept going when it would have been easier to stop. You worked while they were resting. You built when they were breaking down. You believed in a future that only existed in your imagination until it didn't. Now it's real. And here's the truth. The world needs more people like you. People who aren't afraid to look foolish while chasing something that matters. People who aren't afraid to fail, learn, and try again. People who understand that being underestimated is not a curse, it's an advantage. Because when no one believes in you, there's no pressure to be perfect. You're free to grow in the shadows, to experiment, to make mistakes without the weight of expectation. And when you finally step into the light, the impact is 10 times greater. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for everyone else to understand your dream before you chase it. They don't have to understand. They don't have to believe. They don't even have to like it. You just have to start. Because one day, you'll look back, and the same people who laughed at you will be the ones quoting your words, following your path, and telling their friends how they knew you back when. And when that day comes, you won't even need to say, "I told you so." They'll already know. So go, build, rise, prove them wrong, and more importantly, prove yourself right. Because the world doesn't change when you fit in. It changes when you stand out. And you were born to stand out.